Hello, 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 and welcome everyone to our Techspressionism virtual salon number 54. So it's been going for 54 weeks now, or give or take some, because I think we might have actually missed a couple of them maybe, but that's beside the point. But yes, I am your moderator this evening, Davonte Bradley. It's been a while since I've been around, so glad to be back. There's some stuff that happened or was going on with me, which I had to step away from, but I'm back now, so it's all good, I think. In any case, today is going to be kind of an open mic slash open studio salon for us. So if you're unfamiliar with how things work or you're new here, pretty much this format is if you will go 5 or so minutes between each participant. You'll raise your hand. First participant will go, share what they need to share, and then we'll move on to the next person, so on and so forth, till we get hopefully everyone that needs to share. Um, Other than that, stay friendly and nice. All right. So we're going to kick things off, I think, with Colin, who's going to share something to start, kind of about the movement, and then we'll go from there.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Davo.
Yep.
So yeah, and welcome back. I'm glad you're back in action as a moderator, and certainly we welcome you back to moderate whenever you want. And we've also been doing like rotating moderation, where if people have an idea for a topic-based salon, they want to moderate and or curate an artist, or kind of take a lead. Like, I invite anyone that wants to do so. It just keeps things fresh and interesting. I also just wanted to ask, if you're not sharing, if you could mute yourselves. That just keeps everything running smoothly. And I wanted to just open it up with a few minutes of a recording that I made last week, which was our first roundtable discussion. And it was myself as moderator, and the participants were Christian Paul, who's the digital art curator at the Whitney Museum of American Art, and Helen Harrison, who's the director of the Pollock Krasner Center, Pollock Krasner House and Study Center. And the topic was about Techspressionism. So I just wanted to share a couple minutes of that segment, which is on the YouTube channel, and we now have our own short URL there, youtube.com/Techspressionism. So I'm just gonna kick it off with this recording here. Would either one of you have any specific questions for each other or for myself on the topic of Techspressionism to expand our dialogue? And then I figure we can just sort of let the conversation develop organically from there.
Well, I think Christiane really hit on a crucial point, which is, where are the boundaries? Should there be boundaries? Is there some way of determining how much subjectivity is injected into the ultimate image or the ultimate work of art, whether or not the technology is contributing to that? I mean, you could think of certain, well, like for example, in your exhibition, Colin, you had printmakers. Printmaking is a technology. It's not a digital technology, but it could be. But the kind of technology that was, I guess, primarily foregrounded in the show was digital technology, and some of it animated as well. In fact, in your fly-through, you showed Nina Yankowicz's two-panel animation, and you could only do that digitally. That there's no other way. But could she have achieved the same kind of image result using a different technology? That's also another question. Is this technologically specific, or can it be translated into other media?
Yeah, I think you raise a lot of great questions, Helen, and that was precisely what I was trying to get to. So first of all, just reiterating your important point, of course, all art is technological ultimately. Paint is a technology, photography, of course, printing. So artists have used technologies for centuries, but then those technologies also have very different qualities, obviously. One thing I like about Techspressionism is that as a term, it could also transcend boundaries. And in terms of the question of whether we need to clearly delineate things, I'm all for openness. And I think Techspressionism already fulfills an important function if there are artists aligning themselves with that term and finding a platform to discuss issues relevant to their work. That's always, yeah, I think a function that makes a term valuable. In terms of digital art curation, I also need to make a set of other distinctions. I mean, paint, of course, is a medium, painting is a medium that has so many different genres, but I think digital technology has really increased the range of forms. If you think about virtual reality, augmented reality, software art, massive installations, networked or not. So those are all very, very different manifestations. So I think there's more variety within the digital. And in order to discuss its aesthetics art historically, I think I need to introduce more distinctions into that umbrella of Techspressionism.
All right, so that's just the clip I wanted to share with you guys because I thought that captured a really nice moment there of these two curators interacting and, you know, providing some thoughtful discussion on what we're all engaged in here. So with that, I'm going to hand the mic back to Davo to moderate and to all you guys to open your studios up.
All right, sounds like a plan. And thank you, Colin, for sharing that. And I think one of the things that we more or less can agree on, though I can't speak for everyone, but I think we can agree on this, that the distinction that Christian was getting at is very important for us because, you know, a lot of us are used to the term or used to hearing the term digital art. But what does that mean and what does that encompass exactly, right? It's kind of a huge umbrella term. And that's where, you know, things get kind of mixed up because you introduce yourself to, you know, just a person that's unfamiliar with anything that's, you know, any kind of fine art or art that's created digitally. And you say, oh, you're a digital artist, people might jump to thinking, oh, you're a graphic designer or you make commercial art for video games. And it's really a huge umbrella that can mean a whole bunch of different things. So the term Techspressionism kind of fills a need to kind of distinguish itself in the same way that, you know, not to go too left field, but those of you who are familiar with, you know, different gender labels and different sexuality labels, those distinctions are exceptionally important for, you know, how people identify themselves. And I think as artists, we can also kind of get behind that. It's like we kind of need those labels to say, hey, this is what I'm about. I'm not like, I have similarities with this thing, but I am this distinct entity, or I'm this distinct individual, or this distinct kind of artist, right? So does that kind of, can we agree that that's a thing or no? Yes, maybe? I see head nodding. So, okay, cool. All right. That being said, on to you, Michael.
Thanks, Davo. And yes, it is wonderful to have you back.
Oh, and I just wanted to let you guys know so I don't, it's not disturbing. So as each new artist comes in, I'm going to start a 5-minute timer. When you have 1 minute left, I'll just say 1 minute to let you know that it's time to start wrapping stuff up. And that should give us plenty of time for, you know, conversation once everyone that wants to share has done so. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No problem. All right. Okay, so I have been recently working on some new artwork that is primarily focused on a book that I'm working on, and I kind of talked a very small bit about that when we had the physics and art talk a few weeks ago, a month ago now. And so this is a book that I'm working on that is going to talk about the universe and my sense of what reality is. And it's based on modern physics, a lot of cutting edge neuroscience, and my thoughts on spirituality. And this first image is an expression of the universe beginning. In the book I'm going to be talking about, I use the Mobius strip as a symbol. And in this image here, that Mobius strip is created from the Enso and the Ouroboros, and they come together to form the Mobius strip. So there's the sense of enlightenment, the sense of balance and harmony, along with the teaching about the snake eating its tail and life and death and the generative part of creation. So these next images are just more examples of this. And in my story, part of the story is that the universe is cyclic and never ending, no beginning, no end. And with each new start of the universe of the next cycle, this mysterious blackbird comes back into being and is the witness for the universe. And that's what this image is here. And so the symbology of the bird for us here as human beings on the earth is oftentimes been connected with shamanic traditions and other traditions where the bird is getting away from gravity and being able to fly and have this sense of movement. And that's what these images are. These images are from the metaphysical element or realm of the universe that ties in with the physical and connects us into a sense of wholeness. And then the last set of images that I want to show are my imaginings of our ancestors tens of thousands of years ago, thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, looking at what the bird spirit or the bird represents. And these last images for me are my ode to the bird gods. So I'm just going to cycle through these.
So this was a whole level up from what we were attempting to do.
Just 1 minute.
All right, thank you.
And thank you, Michael.
And I just wanted to add real quick, sorry, Davo, to jump in real, but if you want to, when you start, introduce yourself and let people know where you're zooming in from, you're welcome to. Certainly not mandatory, but just putting that out there.
All right. Well, I'm still in hot Phoenix, so we're in the mid 90s today. So yeah.
Oh joy. That's totally fall weather, right? All right. And I'll also, before I move on, if I don't say this, it's going to bother me, but because your art was centered around a bird or a bird, like the bird's the word, right?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I had to, I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Papa Mau.
All right. Thank you, Michael. All right, next up, Miss Lights.
How you doing?
Doing
Welcome
all right.
back.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes, my name is Verneda Lights, and I'm zooming in from Port Royal, South Carolina, the heart of the South Carolina Low Country. And I traditionally do digital and traditional fine art, and my most recent projects have involved the use of digital portraiture. But I have recently ventured into AI usage for the creation of my artwork. And I'm going to share with you one of my latest projects, and it's titled My Sacred Chinese Muse. And it has that title because I have a muse, and my muse is a Chinese man. And the relationship is very complex and mostly metaphysical. And the AI project was an attempt to uh, obtain insight as to the global memory of where the muse comes from and the nature of the muse artist relationship. So let me share my screen. Okay. Here we have, let's start here. I use Night Cafe in order to get an image of the muse. And I wanted to get something that was more in line with what I was seeing in my own mind. And the system gave me an older, Chinese male. And then again, female. And it took a lot to get the eyes right. Okay. It gave me everything but a Chinese face. But with time, I was able to coax the system to work for me. Okay. This is an abstract which shows the connections, the different connections between the artist and their inspirational source. They represent many pathways to inspiration here, and I like the colors. I was very pleased with that. And this is an image, one of several that it gave me as to where the muse could have come from. So I thought it was pleasing to look at and calming to behold. And this is the dance of life, or electric chi, which shows, myself juxtaposed with the muse in a dance. And I guess the act of artistic inspiration is very much reflected in dance as a metaphor. And this is more the picture of my muse as I see him, as he is biologically and as he is metaphysically. So those are just a few of my images that I've gotten from my Sacred Chinese Muse series. And I'm done.
All right, well, thank you very much, Verneda. And you said this was based off of a real person that you know?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how'd you come to meet them?
I met my muse when I was a student at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine.
Oh, okay.
And he was a house officer, resident in psychiatry at the University of Pennsylvania Hospital. And so we've known each other for 45 years.
That's a lot of history.
Yeah, it's a lot of history, but we're just now really getting to know the hows and the whys and the wherefores of why we really met in the first place. And I think it's
Nice.
being reflected in what's playing out now. And we are culturally very different. I'm Gala and he is, Chinese. So
Right.
how do these different cultural forces interact and create art, inspire art. And
Right.
so I've been exploring that. And the AI has been very useful, I believe.
Interesting. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. I don't know if there's anybody else that wants to go. Oh, Lucy. There we go.
Sure, I'll go. I'm not
Actually, I think
prepared.
I'll go after you because it's been a while and I have been doing stuff since I've been away, but nobody would really know because I don't really post that much. But I'll go after you.
Oh,
All right.
so I just got back from this weekend from Dome Fest West, which is the Dome Festival, Dome Film Festival in Anaheim at the Coast College Planetarium, where it's located, and it's so it's, you know, LA area, and it's 3 days of dome films and animations and some documentaries and some children's films and some you know, lots of experimental art, lots of short format, meaning less than 10 minutes, 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. And my piece showed, which was really exciting because it was the first time I'd actually seen my piece in a real dome. I've been developing it for, well, you know, a while. And, you know, developed it as a VR piece. So as, you know, immersive as VR, and then testing it in a VR dome. I created a dome in VR, map my fisheye format piece to this dome so I can actually test it in a dome, test the timing and so on. But all my testing has been in VR and in my own VR dome. So it was really different to, well, not so different, but it was really interesting to see it actually in a real dome and with an audience. Oh my God, you know, an audience. So that was different and fun. And some interesting observations. I mean, first of all, the whole event was just beautifully organized. Oh my goodness, the organizer Ryan Moore just very responsive all the time, like leading up to it, and then beautifully moderated, and the community is wonderful and very friendly, and so it was a really wonderful, interesting, fun experience. The dome at this particular location. Many domes are like planetarium style, where the dome actually starts about 6 or 8 feet up, and it's over your head, and it's seated. So it's audience seating. The dome is on a tilt. The seating is on a slight slope, and your chairs tilt back so you can be looking up. So you're looking up at the dome. Another dome, my piece also is going to be playing at the Plymouth Dome in the UK early November, and that dome is not seated, and the dome goes all the way down to the ground. It's actually a 210-degree dome with a slight curve around at the bottom, whereas many planetariums are 180 domes. So it's an exact half sphere. And I'm going to share my screen just momentarily. Okay, so this is an example of a seated dome. This kind of thing. So you you know, sit back and look up. And this is the Plymouth Market Hall Dome, where you can see it's no seats, and so on. And then I'm going to momentarily show the piece that I was showing, and I'm not going to show all of it because I've showed it to you before, but just a little bit. So that's the kind of sensation as you're moving into it. And I really developed it in VR and in a VR dome that goes all the way down to the ground, with the intention that it's very immersive and that you can stand up and turn around and see it from behind. that you actually need to turn around to see what's going on behind you, or you can enjoy standing and looking at it in different directions. And it was interesting to see that in this particular dome format, where you're sitting back and the dome is right above you and you can almost see all of it. So it wasn't as immersive. It was still, interesting. It was definitely, a very different experience from a, rectangular movie screen, certainly immersive, but thank you. But not the full encompassing type of immersion that I've been testing with it. So I'm really interested to see how the experience is different in the Plymouth Dome, which goes all the way down to the ground, and you can stand and walk around and turn around to see what the scene is like as it disappears behind you compared to as you're moving into it. Because the work that I do and what most excited about is to create pieces that are immersive. I really want to place the viewer inside of these environments, and they're all environments of our environment, the processes and flows of our natural lands, and I want to place the viewer in it. So that is an important aspect for me. So this is my very first dome experience, the first experiment of creating for this format. It was amazing to see so many other pieces and types of works, including documentary, including 360 live, including artful, all of everything, and everybody really creating for this format, which is so different to create for a format all around a sphere compared to a rectangular, video where you have a clear behind the camera. So this was my recent experience at Dome Fest West, and it was fabulous and interesting and informative. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Lucy. That sounds amazing. Happy that you guys actually had that experience.
Yeah, me too.
Now I'm sitting here trying to imagine what like some of our other artists or even my own art would look like in that kind of format. Just all over.
It's a different way to create.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for that. And I guess I can go ahead and go. I actually just did something. I got an app that allowed me to do this, so I'm hoping it's going to work the way I want it to. So I'm Davo, by the way, based out of Richmond, Virginia. I've kind of been around here for 2 years now. And my work is mostly in digital paintings and drawings. And here recently I've been experimenting with in hold on, let me lower my moderating stuff. I've been experimenting with Procreate because I got an iPad, and you're actually seeing my iPad because I figured out how to actually cast that to my PC. So one of the things that I like to do whenever I pick up a new piece of technology, a new piece of software to use, which is exactly how I created the current style that a lot of you might know me for, is I like to play around. I'll open up a new piece of software or a new page, new layer, and just start playing around with the brushes and see what feels right, so to speak. And originally I was trying to recreate the kind of feel or aesthetic of what I would do in the software that I use on my PC called Krita. But Procreate doesn't necessarily have the same kind of brushes that Krita does. And the one particular that is kind of like the cornerstone of my style in Krita, I can't use that in Procreate. And I've tried to recreate it, but it doesn't work. But a lot of the stuff that here is at the bottom, like this, was me trying to recreate some of that feeling, at least. And then I went into experimenting with some of like the morphing slash like liquid movement transforming tools. So there was a period of time where I was creating kind of similar to almost like paint pours, but they were mostly finger painting with stuff warped and pulled and twirled around. And then just random offshoots on. This one's my favorite, actually. I love this one. And then as time went on, I kind of settled into the fact that Procreate was its own thing, and I should kind of just lean into what Procreate has to offer and see if I could make, you know, something different or new with that. This is another one of the pour slash transforming things. And I didn't really start to get heavily into that until probably maybe about 2 months or so ago, because I did a lot with just trying to find something that worked with Procreate that I was happy with, that felt like me still. And around, let me see, I guess it was probably around here, this section, which been working on off and on for, again, like I said, like 2 months. Going back to the black and white stuff, because that's how I initially started to play with Krita, and manipulating radial symmetrical drawings in fun, interesting ways. And I end up creating drawings that were, they felt right to me. But yeah, so some of you may have seen some of these. I posted a few of these on Instagram on my Facebook page. And then I started leaning even more to that. And so now we have things like this, which is kind of an extension of everything that I was doing before on Procreate, with the finger painting, the transforming with the liquid tool on Procreate. And it's created some very interesting effects that I've fallen in love with. So I think that's probably what I'm going to stick with in Procreate.
1 minute.
And yeah, so it's been a fun time. I treating Procreate very differently than I treat Krita, but still kind of employing some of the same techniques I'll use in Krita. But yeah, that's about it. That's what I've kind of been up to. There's over 168 works in there, but I've also done little things like this on the side, just, you know, just because. Yeah. But there we go. That's what I've been up to. And I will stop sharing.
Yay!
Awesome.
Yeah. I love the black and white pieces.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Apparently that's what I tend to do really well with.
Yeah, I like those too. They're great.
All right. Well, also, if anyone wanted to, I'll go ahead and drop this. The app that I'm using to be able to cast my iPad directly to my PC, it is an app called, I think it's Aircast. I think. The AirPlaycast. It is a paid app for its premium features, like $20 for a lifetime use, but it has a lot of features that I think people could use, especially if they want to live stream their Procreate stuff, because that's not necessarily easy to do. Streaming stuff directly from your iPad to anywhere else, it's not all that easy, but this makes that a lot easier. So yeah, there's that.
All right.
Yeah. So anyone else? I don't see any other hands up from what I can see, unless my page is not performing the way I want it to. Let me see. And no other hands up. Anybody? Anybody at all? Or I can start picking people randomly. Lee Day?
could show something that I've been working on. So I've been, let's see, we do share screen here and find the right screen somewhere. There we go. So I've finally been able to been able to travel again, and most of my work is travel based. What are you seeing on the screen? Can you see the image in the middle there?
No.
Doesn't seem to be sharing yet. You might want to try to reshare it.
Okay. About that.
There we go. Yep.
Mhm.
And hopefully, does that have the panels on the side too?
Yeah.
Maybe that's better. I'm not sure if that's better or not. I can't see it. But in any event, so I have this generative work that I do. I shoot out of train windows using the iPhone panorama function as a scanner. I attach it to the train windows, and I've been doing that for a long time, and I have a lot of these square images, mostly from Japan. And so I've been trying to push the process a little bit farther, and I wanted to try and get images that included people and were a little bit closer. Most of the work that I've been doing has been pretty far away. And so I was in Europe this summer. My wife was installing a piece in Basel and writing the Straßenbahn, the trams there. And so that's what this work is. And it's sort of hard to get the people to in these images. There are exposure issues and it tends to blur. And it's just the start of that project, that process of trying to get these much closer kinds of images. And then there's some other stuff. And then I was also trying to, again, look for other types of work that's to move on from the Japanese work. And this is Chicago. So I spent about 4 days shooting in Chicago, riding the L train, elevated trains. These you can see are a lot farther away. They tend to be much more organized and formalist in their compositions compared to the stuff coming from Japan, which has a lot more differences in depths and is a lot more active, a lot more exciting. But that's what I've been working on recently, and it has a long way to go.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I still want to be able, my wife and I, we actually have been wanting to get to Japan for about 5 years now, actually. And it just, things keep coming up and we haven't been able to get there, but soon.
Well, for the last 2.5 years, you haven't been allowed to go, but as of yesterday, they are allowing foreign tourists to go in again.
Nice.
Yeah.
I need to get my passport then.
Tourists. Sorry?
Need to get my passport then.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, that was really great. All right, now we have Max. Max, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay. So I've been involved with different kind of expressions and of communication for my whole life. In the last year, I focused completely on being a digital artist. I use really different ways to express myself. So I use AI, I use digital drawing. I use photography. I use collages. I record sounds from nature. I use glitch art. I use everything that I found. I find that it's possible to be added. I add because I'm really creative, and I always had a lot of stuff to say to the world, and that involve social issues. I've always been an activist of LGBTQI movement, and so I never stop, and I continue creating, maybe too much, but let me show you something of my works. That my first two collections started as an elaboration of a single picture. Screen, sorry. So we talk after it. I start now. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Because before was a file, now I want to share my. Okay, perfect. So my first.
I think we had a connection issue. Yeah, I think he disconnected. That's unfortunate. Hopefully he'll be back in the next couple of seconds.
Happens. What happened?
I think you lost your connection, Max.
The moment I want to share, I'm going sharing single files. I think the shared screen is too heavy for my connection.
Maybe.
Photo. Okay. Let's go here, gallery. Sorry for this little technical.
Oh no, that's par for the course around here.
My first collection was about a bird. I saw bird in the first presenter, and it's a typical bird of Brazil. Is 15 years that I'm living in Brazil, and I wanted to use the Brazilian culture to oh my gosh, to mix with the traditionalist Brazilian culture, mixed and facing the new world, the Web3 and things like that. So this characteristic bird is a bintv, and is known as the one that brings the novelties during the early morning, but is at the same time a symbol of tradition. So I choose this bird, and I've done a really different elaboration on this picture of the bird, to telling story. Every picture here is as a different story. There's a road story that is a band TV that tells this story and talk with the public, and is the meeting between East Edition and the world changing and the craziness of Web3. So that was my first collection. Anyway, sorry. Now I'm going to have an exposition this Saturday, and is in a gay beach club. So I'm going to present artworks that related with the LGBT word, and so there are creations like that.
1 minute.
Or let me show. is appearing. You see a picture? No.
The picture that we're seeing right now is a bird with a white head and yellow belly. So I'm not sure if you want to switch to something else, but that's what we're seeing right now.
It's not a male, an angel, no?
No, it's not.
Oh my gosh. Sorry.
It's okay. Technical
Anyway.
difficulties happen.
Oh.
Is there a way for people to be able to
Let me
see
see.
your work outside of this? Like, do you have an Instagram or anything like that?
I posted a link into the
Yeah,
chat.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yes, thanks, Colin. I'm really sorry. Anyway, I'm struggling with another mobile phone, but I have a lot of stuff to say, and I'm really productive. I've already done something like 20 different collections. So go there, and if you want to know me better, go there and check it out, because I'm not so able to show them rightly in this moment. Okay.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Max.
Yes, thanks, Max. And Max is one of the founding artists of the Brazilian node,
Nice.
Techspressionist artist. So I'm happy to see you here, and it's great to get some people from outside of the
Wonderful.
US.
Thanks, Max.
Really, thanks, Colin. And Saturday will be my first exposition, so wish me luck.
Good luck.
Yes.
Thanks.
All right. Now, do we have any more brave souls that wish to share? Or not so brave souls? Now, I could do this like school and just start calling on people. Tommy. Or let's see, who else is in here today? Actually, a couple of unfamiliar faces or names in here, which I don't want to put those people on the spot because that might make them uncomfortable. But you other people that know me, I can make you uncomfortable. That's okay. Let's see.
Okay. Hey, Davo, can I ask Verneda a question?
Yeah, sure.
So, Verneda, good to see you again, my friend. And so how did your Chinese fellow become your muse?
My
Or how
muse.
did you know what if it's a story you don't mind telling a little bit about?
Well, it was through a series of intuitions where we shared common insights and inspirations, and it's very complicated. And my best way of describing it is as a quantum entanglement.
Okay.
If quantum entanglement played out on the screen or on the stage, it would look like, our friendship,
Okay.
And I was baffled by everything, and we had a conversation where I was trying to explain. I said, you gotta understand this. I think they call this thing thin space or something like that we're in, but I don't understand it, And he said, well, there's muses. And I said, muses? Wow, that's an interesting thought. And then I started going through the different insights and inspirations that I've been having, the visions, the artistic visions that I had started to experience. And it fit the criteria for muses. I researched it, the muses in antiquity, because you associate it with Greek culture, but come to find out, the 9 muses were recruited by the Egyptian god Osiris. So the muses have an African origin, okay? And I said, okay, now I can start to understand a little bit. And then I found out that muses are associated with springs and water, you know, and as places where people would go to encounter the muses. And water played a very large part in my artistic visionings of our friendship and the things that I saw about life in general based on the discoveries of that friendship. So I said, you know what, this thing is starting to make sense, this Muse thing. And then once I had a context for it, everything else just sort of fell in place and made sense. And then with the AI, I said, you know what? I'm only going to get but so far trying to imagine this world that I've encountered. And maybe AI can help me because AI has a database that's many millions of times greater than what I have. So if ever there is a place where I could get the collective unconsciousness or the collective insight into things in the muse, in the vein of muses and beyond, it would be from that. Let's see. So I, started playing around, and it was very frustrating at first because the software could not render Chinese face. At least it would not initially connect with that cultural visage, right? And so I looked for geographical locations. And I said, okay, where'd he come from? Let me see if I can find out. And then I got this series of images, and they all had water, okay? And this is before I knew about this show enough Muse knowledge, And then I got the faces, but they were the older faces and the archetypal, faces. And then after lots of wrangling with the machine, with the ghost in the machine, so to speak, I got something that represents him, and that let me know that, well, AI is not an oracle or anything like that, don't get me wrong. But if you didn't know better, you might think so, okay?
Yeah.
It's not the Oracle of Delphi, it's the Oracle of OpenAI.
Well, yeah, I call it the ghost in the machine. And I think that everybody has a different vibe with AI. And I think the vibe that I have is somehow unique to me, and the Cubist figures that they rendered for the Dance of Life image was something that was very modern and very, very reflective of the friendship and telling in a lot of ways. So it's been incredible. So my muse knows he's a muse. That's been quite a journey. We got to talk about this one day, Michael.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, because I remember when we did the art and physics, you had asked about quantum entanglement. So yeah, I definitely, we'll have to Zoom together sometime.
Yes.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
talked about people think that, it's magic.
It's
and
not.
they want to accept it.
Yeah.
I can see how they would think it is magic.
Yeah.
Because I for a minute I thought it was, in that realm.
Yeah.
And I said, no, it's not.
I totally agree with you.
Yes, it's this. So
I totally agree with you. I created a really deep relationship with the AI. I'm sure there is something special that you create using your typical words and things like that, and the machine learn from you.
yes.
And at the end, the creation is it comes from a special relationship with the artificial intelligence. I totally agree with you. It's what I felt. Sorry for
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
Thanks,
fine.
Max. That's very insightful. So I got to talk to Max too. Max and Michael.
It is interesting though, as far as how individual people do employ AI, or at least the ones with text prompts, because we all like there are the general guidelines for here's how to get the kinds of images that you want to see if you follow this kind of structure in the prompts, but you don't necessarily have to follow that. It's
Right.
you kind of use how you use language, and then you kind of work within that and maybe modify and change that to get to what you want. But then there's also the curation side of things where it's like, oh, so these images look more like what I'm looking for, but let's go deeper into that.
Yes.
And everyone's going to go probably a different way with that process. So you're going to end up, even if you start with the same prompts, if you keep evolving them, you're going to get wildly different results, because everyone's experience is going to be completely different, and what they're looking for is going to be completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve, I think the AI did a very good job in giving me something that I consider art.
Yeah.
And something art that resonates with what's going on with me. And I have a very unusual story, for this. But somehow they found that pulse and communicated it, and I really appreciated that. And I'm doing even more AI stuff now. Yeah.
It is definitely one of the more interesting tools that has entered the space for artists these days, or at least for the ones that have embraced it. And it does get a lot of flack for a lot of different reasons, but I don't think there has been any kind of tool that has entered the use for artists that hasn't gotten flack from somebody at some point. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, it's the price you pay for breaking out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now we could actually carry on this discussion about AI and muses and everything like that, but I do want to reiterate, if you do have something that you'd like to share today, feel free to raise your hand, and we'll show your stuff, or you can show your stuff, and we'll sit here and appreciate it like we're supposed to.
Yeah.
All right, Cynthia.
Well, first of all, I want to say, if Michael and Verneda get together and Max, I would love to join.
All right.
Maybe we'll do a round table.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have, let me see if I can share here. Let's see, what am I using? Oh, my iPad. Share. All right, it's looking for a plugin. Once that plugin shows up, okay. Okay. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have hit stop mirroring. Hopefully it'll show up more quickly. All right.
Yeah, from there, if you just click away from the menu, it should. Yeah. Yep.
I'm almost there. All right, here we go.
There you go.
I've been big into, for whatever reason, orange and turquoise. I started, because it's autumn, collecting leaves with my granddaughter. And so I decided, because she enjoys working in Procreate, she's 7, and I started drawing a leaf in Procreate, and that's how it started with this leaf. So I began playing with this leaf, and finally I began warping it, and I'm sure Davo, you know what I'm talking about. And then I moved over to iColorama, another of my favorite apps for the iPad, and began experimenting. And I was kind of happy with what was happening for me. I love the way the color was interpreted and the shapes began to occur. And so I kept playing. And then I took a dip into AI, and I asked for turquoise and orange abstraction. I just wanted something really simple. And so from there, I moved back into iColorama and began to work with textures. And again, shapes, more shapes. And so I just kept, you know, working at it. And I had a lot of fun seeing what I could make happen with these colors. And I guess it's a kind of generative process, even though I'm not using, strictly speaking, a generative website that produces this. So I got some things. I think this was probably one of my favorite because it has a more painterly sense. And here I began mixing images from the earlier images, and then came up with something like this, which has a very different green, moved into dark green and an orangey red. And that's where I ended. So this is totally experimental on my part, which is how I like to play. And so that's what I've been up to.
Nice. And it all started with leaves.
Yeah, I mean, my joy is in finding something very commonplace, something that means absolutely nothing or whatever, and seeing what I can make happen with it. That's gives me a lot of joy.
Nice. Now, I was teaching my 8-year-old nephew how to use Procreate not so long ago. So trying to start to usher in a new age of digital creators like us.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's great.
Yep. All right, but that was great. And I'm curious to see how else or how far it goes from where you're currently at.
Yes, I'm going to keep on playing, see what happens.
Always keep playing. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you for that, Cynthia. Anyone else? Karen?
Well, hesitantly will.
Hesitantly.
Little out of the weather with my health tonight, so I won't speak a lot. But I've been working on a lot of animations for the last month. The ocean exhibit is all done. It will eventually go up. This weekend it opens, but it'll be online after that. So the next meeting I can give you the URLs for those. And then Marlo and I are working on some animations to test out a video wall that's not ready for prime time yet. So we're trying to help them. So we've got a project going, and our theme is "It's about the planet." And that's it. That's it. So the animation I can show you is on balancing. So one of them's on resiliency, one's on balancing, and so we just take themes like that. So let me see if I can share my screen. Let's grab this one. Got to bring it forward so I can see it. There. I'm not going to do all this with the front credits, so I have to back it up. Let's start there. And the music is by Nancy Tucker. It's all originally created for our animations. So I'm not going to show the whole thing because it's long, but you'll get the gist. And I'll stop it there. That's what I've been up to.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
That is really pretty. And how long have you been working on that?
Probably since the summer on that one. If that one's finished, I still have to do another one in a week and a half.
Oh, and that one took you the whole summer?
Off and on between the
Oh, okay.
ocean projects. The ocean one had to be completed, the 3 animations, by the end of August.
Right, right.
So they're done with all the artwork. There's 21 pieces of artwork and 3 animations.
Wow.
And then this one will have the 2 animations, hopefully, if I get the other one done.
Nice.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you shared that because it looks amazing so far.
Well, I'll give you the URL to the other show next time we meet, because it'll be up by then.
Gotcha. All right.
Karen?
Well,
Thanks.
Karen, could you explain the title?
Balancing, well, the whole film goes, it's balancing. It starts off the mechanical end, and then nature sort of grows through it. So that in the end, there's sort of a balance of both nature and human invention, rather than human invention taking over nature.
Okay, cool. Because it looks very mechanistic, but then it also has that nature vibe on top of it. So I was just kind of curious what the title meant. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what it is. And the nature sort of grows a little bit more as time goes through it. Yeah.
Okay.
all right. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Karen. And do we have anyone else? See, we're losing a couple people because time's going. We're getting slightly close to time, but still got a solid 40-ish minutes. Right? Do we stop at 7:30 or 7?
No, we stop at 7, so we're doing
Never
hour and
mind.
a half sessions. Yeah,
So
or
we got
actually
8
we'll
minutes
go
to
to
go.
we'll go to 7:05 or so, since we started
Okay.
a little bit late.
I have a
Um,
comment that I wanted to direct to Lucy, if there's time.
Is Lucy still here? Yes, she is. Okay.
I'm here.
Hi, Lucy. I really enjoyed seeing your video in past salons, that particular video, and seeing it online. I think I saw it on Instagram. The thing that I find really interesting about what you were talking about today in this immersive experience in a kind of a global room is how unifying that must feel for all the participants, and how it's a counterpoint to AR. With AR, you're in an Oculus, you feel as though you're in a place, you may even feel that there are others there. But here, where, the human element is so high, you're there together, experiencing this whole immersive experience on the ceiling and the walls together. And I think that's really, so remarkable and so human.
Yes, exactly. I mean, they're both extremely immersive mediums. Virtual reality is, very immersive, and it's, you're really in amongst the stuff, and that full sort of immersion of your senses, and your peripheral vision, and it impacts your sense of balance, and it really has a different feeling. You experience it in a completely different bodily way. This particular experience that I created, I mean, in VR, you can see everything above you and everything below you. As I'm floating up into the tree or through the roots, I can look down. So the dome experience is only half of that. It's only above you. But absolutely right. The difference in being in a shared experience where, you are with an audience and everybody is, experiencing it at the same time is beautiful. So both those mediums, as far as being immersive, they really both have very particular strengths and weaknesses. And so I'm really enjoying exploring this dome immersion type of immersive media, as well as virtual reality. I really appreciate them both. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Lucy, what I really like about not only your work in particular, but the actual presentation in a dome, what I find a strength of that is that you have the immersive quality, but you also have the specific artist's viewpoint there. Like with VR, you can get in places or do things that aren't necessarily the strict vision of the artist, because like in a completely immersive environment, you can kind of go wherever the artist lets you go, but it isn't necessarily what the artist had envisioned. And so that's what I like about the dome projection standpoint, is that you're inside and you're seeing the artist's vision from inside. And I think that's really cool. So wish I could have made it to your show there though. Sorry.
Hey, well, that you still have a chance if you want to go to England in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But I think maybe one of the things that you're pointing out or noticing is the difference between a scripted movie style animation, which is rather than a game environment where the viewer can run around, explore wherever, and it's less controlled in that respect.
Yeah.
But as you know, as a video game developer, even if it's a runaround environment, you still get to control the experience.
Sure.
And make it an explorable environment in the way the artist wants it.
Yeah.
Compared to being a movie that you sit back and enjoy, and enjoy that control of the representation.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it was interesting, see, being in VR and having the whole 360 and in front and behind and next to you environment, compared to the very immersive dome of what I was expecting down to the ground, where you at least can differentiate between looking forward and looking behind you, but then being in a dome that's all up above you, where you can take in the whole thing at once. So that's interesting, but it's almost a bit like a screen.
Yeah.
It's like having a round screen where you have less of that opportunity to have to turn your body to look behind you. That's that bodily connection and needing to turn around, like walking in the forest, or looking around a cathedral. That's immersion in the way it impacts your body. You have to look around instead of seeing the entire dome or screen in one eyeful.
Well, and the other thing is, like in completely immersive VR, you don't have the same body sense or body knowing like you might be able to do in what you're talking about within the dome environment. Yes, you're looking at a screen, but you have your physical presence there inside what's being presented, where in complete VR, you lose some of that. And I find that from an artistic standpoint, an interesting trade-off.
Yeah, you lose some of it, and I totally understand the ways that you're meaning. You lose your bodily experience of sort of like, being seated in place or standing. But you gain some of it in ways that it's so immersive, that sensation of peripheral vision and how it impacts your sense of balance is really, really very, very physical.
Yes.
Balance is a physical thing. And when you're in VR, that part of your system is much more activated than when you're grounded in a space like watching a movie or in a dome experience. So yes, lose some and also gain some. So it's just, different sensation. Thank you for your question or comments.
Always nice to have good discussions, right? Okay. We are right at 7 o'clock. Was there anyone that else had questions or comments for anybody else that maybe presented today, or just wanted to maybe talk for 5 more minutes about something that came up?
Well, I wanted to put something out if no one else is chiming in at this point, since we're still recording, if anybody does have a suggestion for the next salon in 2 weeks as far as a topic or format or anything like that, just opening up the floor for any kind of suggestions or ideas.
I was kind of intrigued by having Max here from South America, and it's sort of it seems like it'd be a nice thing to invite several different representatives from all of these nodes around the world, just to get a feeling of what's going on somewhere else besides in the United States.
Yeah, I like that idea. I could certainly see that being an interesting topic, provided that we actually get participants from other places.
because that's the hard part, because time zones, and that's a thing. Like I know some of the people that are further out, they struggle making it into some of these because it just doesn't necessarily sync up time-wise for them. But it would be definitely an interesting idea for if we could get anybody. Maybe they'll try and make time if we put it out there.
Maybe with a better technically experience to present himself.
Maybe.
In most of South America and Canada and the Americas in general are pretty close in terms of time zone.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we get further on, it's when things get a little wonky.
Is it possible to have them send a series of their work either through Dropbox or Google Drive so that we could see their work, and maybe they could come up with a short statement so that we could at least enjoy their work and see what they've done, and maybe that might be a way to bring them in? I don't know if that's doable.
It's a beautiful idea.
Yeah, I definitely think that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I think, again, sort of what I'm looking for, to be honest, is for anybody that wants to actually take their idea and be the lead on it. So, if you'd like to reach out to a bunch of the different people, Lee, I'm happy to work with you on coordinating that. But again, I'm looking to sort of move to a more decentralized model, if possible. Where if people have an idea, this is a platform on which that can be sort of executed. But
my problem is that I don't have the technical expertise. That they should ask me what they should prepare to give to you, I wouldn't have a clue as to what to tell them.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think that I like the international idea. I think that might take a little bit more planning in terms of, reaching out to people in advance and kind of seeing who might actually be game ahead of time, and then sort of scheduling it. But I actually think that is an interesting idea.
Well, I think if you offered, say, each one of those organizations that you contacted, you could ask them if there was one person who would like to prepare something to present to the Americans.
Yeah, I mean, no one's been contracted. This is just groups of artists from the particular countries, I mean, really what the nodes are we have this big index of artists from all over the world. And at some point I thought, well, maybe I'll do a group chat to connect all the people in France together. And they started communicating, and all the people in Canada, and that's sort of what the nodes are just these sort of geographically grouped sets of artists from within the index. That being said, certainly I think that's, I would like the salons to take on more of an international feeling. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely open to that as a salon idea. I mean, there's definitely a Canadian contingent that is probably the most feasible to organize, and language wise also. I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that people who whose primary language is in English might not feel 100% comfortable coming on and basically doing a public speaking kind of situation like this.
Well, having spent a fair bit of time over the summer with artists in Switzerland and in other places, I can say that most artists in Europe speak English very well, and they're used, because especially since English was the lingua franca between the different countries in Europe. For example, I was at the photo reviews in Houston recently, and the guy who is running Photo Ireland is Spanish. So, and he speaks English. So it's English is is not hard to do for artists in Europe.
And not only that's a screening process. They will do that themselves. The people who feel comfortable making a presentation, even if they speak poor English, they'll step forward.
That's true. That's true. I mean, we have had, some level of participation from people in, various places, but it's definitely been primarily English speaking and American. That being said, though, I would like to, make it a more international type environment for sure. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'd be definitely willing to at least reach out to the various, people in these nodes and see, if anyone's interested in participating in an international salon. I guess if not, we could certainly do another open sharing, or if anyone does have like an alternative topic, I mean, I kind of feel like it might be easier to do that international thing as something where like I would want more time personally if I'm going to be the guy reaching out to people to try to organize something like that. I don't think it's really realistic to like try to do it for the next one. I think that the people have to, like, I would have to sort of canvass the people in the various nodes and find out if there is interest, and set up a date sort of in advance so people might be able to prepare a little bit more, because like this particular type of format we're doing today is a fairly impromptu, like informal type situation where I feel like, it might be putting people on the spot, or if there is a big time zones difference, like the Middle East, for instance, people are going to want to maybe have some time to prep or whatever. Are there any?
What about a color or black and white? Like, let's do the yellow salon.
I mean, one thing I was thinking about, honestly, is like the elephant in the room that we haven't done a salon on is NFTs. We've never really specifically focused on NFTs. And, I was thinking about that after this roundtable discussion. And, maybe that's something that we should think about. I mean, what do you guys think about that? I know that that's something where it's sort of like this topic, in that many of the people involved either have something that they're working on, developing an NFT project. I know some of the people involved in Techspressionism have either been past participants or current participants in the Niftorian NFT Accelerator program. And I think that maybe that could be a topic that might be interesting. And certainly I think it's something that we could potentially also pull in some outside interests in terms of people that might not be, regular participants, but there is this whole NFT community out there that, is more than happy to show their NFTs on any other platform human beings have ever created. So, providing an opportunity for artists to share their NFTs here might open it up to some people who might not have been here before. I mean, what do you guys think about that as sort of like an interim stopgap topic for next time, for 2 weeks? And, people could be, invited to share their NFT projects for 5 minutes.
I think it's a great
Works
idea.
for me.
That's a great idea.
The only thing I would wonder about, for example, my stuff is pretty much other things I've already showed, but so maybe you want to have try to focus on things which are different from what you've shown in other ways.
That makes sense. I mean, honestly, I would leave it open to the individual artists. If I don't know that I would necessarily, I know that some of our salons, our most recent salons, have been sort of pre-selected artists, that were invited by the people that came up with the topic. If I was the one sort of coming up with this idea, I don't know, Davo, would you be interested in still moderating if we did that topic? Or
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I mean, because I feel like the NFT phenomenon sort of, I mean, it definitely started before we were doing anything as a group, but like the Beeple's drop and the really sort of mainstream awareness of NFTs happened shortly after we were really meeting regularly. And I think it's interesting how digital art has become much more visible because of NFTs. But we as a group are not necessarily identifying in that way as part of the NFT community, because we're not. You know what I mean? And so like there's the NFT community that's this whole other sort of giant parallel artistic community based around a delivery mechanism, essentially. It's interesting to look at the overlap, and I think when the curator conversation kind of got into that topic, that's when it started to really become interesting to me, because I mean, it was the whole conversation was extremely interesting, and I really enjoyed hearing what both Helen and Christian had to say, but like I feel like this, the topic of NFTs is going to be addressed very differently from a practitioner, an artist who has minted an NFT before and is incorporated to their practice, artists who are not involved in the NFT sort of space, and outside people who might be, say, curators or collectors, like, both traditional and non-traditional collectors. Like everyone's going to have a very different opinion on it. Not very many people have an opinion on Techspressionism because people don't know what it is, right? But NFTs are a different story. So it tends to be a very hot button topic, even in my own household, when I find myself trying to explain them to my wife and sort of evangelize them in my own special way. So yeah, but Lee, I do appreciate the suggestion for the international artists, and it is actually something that I've thought about and been thinking about for a while now, in terms of how to make it a little bit more global, you know. So I think, you know, I'm definitely going to also move on that particular idea by reaching out to the people, the nodes, which basically at this point are group chats. And if anyone actually speaks another language and is interested in joining in on the Brazilian node or the German node or the French node, just message me and I'll add you into that particular group chat, because that's really all it was. There was no high-tech stuff involved. It's like literally an Instagram group chat where I like added the people who are all in a particular country and said, hey guys, you know, here, you know, say hi to one another, in the hopes that maybe, you know, like exhibitions or other things might get organized in sort of a geographically localized fashion.
All right.
May I say something?
Yep.
Sometimes there are technical problems too, like connection falling and things like that. So if a person is habilitated to send a short video showing his work and a little presentation, but that could be hosted and streamed by the host, it could be more easier for a person to present himself without technical problems, and later be open only to answer to some questions.
That makes sense.
And more easy for the recording, for everything.
Also, I want to suggest that if we ever had our sessions at like 10 or 11 in the morning, then we could, then our European artists could actually be part of this. I mean, at our current time, it's like 11 p.m. is the start in UK and Europe, but if we had morning sessions, you know, either regularly or occasionally, then we could totally hear from many other countries, at least Europe. Just
totally no. We did have a different time initially. We were earlier in the day, and we kind of shifted it around. But I mean, I'm definitely open to, you know, to discussion on that as well. You know, I think I'm pretty much of the school of consensus based decision making. So whatever people think is going to work best, I'm definitely pretty flexible.
Yeah, so why don't we create a short list of the NFTs and the participation among the different nodes. And also I like Michael's ideas of color. You know, you can even pick a strange color. It doesn't have to be mainstream like black and white. It could be something, you know, different. We even had a color-oriented presentation here tonight. So that could be 3 on the short list. And we can keep the list around and continue to build on it and shift the priorities around as the conversation proceeds.
I think that makes sense.
And a few sessions ago, there was a topic that I was looking forward to, and I think it was movement or motion or something like that. But it became a like an opportunity for community discussion. So we didn't actually go with the topic of motion or movement. So it would be fantastic if that could go on the list.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, my sort of well, this we could always like stop the recording and continue the conversation, but really my my idealized version of what might happen would be that if people have an idea for a salon, to volunteer to be the sort of moderator or organizer, and pull people in from the index or however you think it might make sense. That way it's more of a group project, in the sense that I would really love for Techspressionism to be more of a platform for anyone who wants to bring ideas to life, to be able to do that in a way that's more decentralized than, you know what I mean? And that might also be me just trying to like offload any work or responsibilities to other people, which it is. But I think that also makes it a lot more interesting to, allow the group to function in a much more democratic way, or, like having other people sort of
Well, it has,
like
I mean, it has been interesting to see, the moderator shift from person to person the last half a dozen times or so. I really do. That was a good suggestion, and I think it. Plus, we don't have to funnel everything through you, Colin. That way, that way you're not having to be responsible for everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that I've enjoyed, having the moderator role rotate and seeing what, you and Renata and Tommy brought to the table as far as, like the different topics, because, it really allows for a different type of development of ideas, I think. And also for the artist to like intercommunicate in a different way, so yeah, anyway, we're definitely past time, and I probably have now like talked too much here, but I'm gonna count us down, and then anyone that's willing to stay or wants to stay on, we will do so. And Davo, appreciate your return. It's good to see your face back here again.
Well, thank you.
You've been a real integral part of this project, as far as I'm concerned, from the get-go, in terms of, our initial conversation being real fuel for me to believe that other people identify with this idea, and ultimately, like, Techspressionism is just a word. It's just a term that's, ideally anyone can own it and, like, align themselves with it in a way that is going to benefit them or have the most meaning for them. Actually, there's an artist, Howard Harris, who is opening a show in New York, I think tomorrow, and the title of the show includes Techspressionism. It's abstract photography, and I'll actually paste a link into the chat so you guys.
That was part of the interesting discussion from Christine and Helen. They were discussing that whole thing about how artists internationally may use that term or define that term. And along in there was the idea of digitalism. Digitalism doesn't sound as artistic as Techspressionism does. It aligns itself more with Impressionism and Expressionism and Surrealism, where digitalism sounds somehow mechanical to me. I don't know why, but I found that part of their discussion quite fascinating, that they were sort of waiting to see what would evolve. That was an interesting statement.
I think so. So, yeah, absolutely. I think digitalism actually was a term that was popularized in the last couple of years by an artist named Krista Kim if I'm not mistaken. I think she's pretty active in the NFT space. And you know, all of these different terms, I think, have various usages and meanings. But you know, it's nice to see others using it. You know, this is, I think it actually, this artist show opens up. Well, I guess it opened yesterday, but he's, you know, in the index, and it's photographically based work, but you know, it's in a gallery in Manhattan. So I think that bringing the term into common usage in that way is, you know, definitely something that's positive. So I'm going to count us down, and whoever would like to stick around for a little bit is more than welcome to do so. We will see you in 2 weeks, and stop recording in 3, 2, 1, and contact.